It's Christine Wilson and Saphira Galoob, and you'll thank us later. Tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. Bring it on, girls and boys.
You know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me. They're going to hate us, Saphira. It's going to be nuts. Hi, my sweet, wonderful friend, Saphira. How are you?
Well, Christine, even though we do get to talk on this podcast so opening and lovingly, I know you and I have had several conversations offline, which we're going to get into today. I am better today, but I am certainly getting ready to show a more vulnerable side today to our listeners and talk about some of the emotional roller coasters that have kind of that I've been on the ride, for which I've been on the ride this past week. And you've been such a dear and warm and patient friend and audience. But I think it's important that our listeners don't just hear us when we're smooth sailing, but they need to know when we're in choppy waters.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, what are they going to learn from it all, right? Well, I started off, I got on and I told you I couldn't record until later in the day because my hip was bothering me so much that I could barely sleep last night. So I went online and I was like, who can give me a massage tomorrow morning? I don't care where it is, anyone. And I found this place. So I know there are many, many forms of Asian massage practice, and I'm not 100% sure what this place was exactly, but I will say this woman was not afraid to beat the crap out of me. And I asked her, I said, I want firm. Unless I tell you I can't take it, you just give me what you're willing to do. She was on top of the table, on me. And I think it's the first time in a week that I can just move my hip again. And I'm not like, so I think when I had my back surgery, they did take a bone graft from my right hip. And so my right hip has always been sore. It's always had its weird little quirks. I think the stress also of the world and politics and life and busyness and children has like also manifested into like where my normal pain points are. They're just like really bad. So I just got back and you were asking me, how you doing? How you feeling? And I was like, I feel like, like I'm going to take that as one positive for the day that I can move my hip and I'm not screaming in pain because last night I really thought I'm never going to fall asleep. And I finally got up and took some ibuprofen so I could, but, yeah. So anyway, this was one of those. And I know a lot of people can't do the massage where it's just like an hour of atrocious pain. But I know what it does for me and how much, as long as I drink a lot of water and keep stretching and take care of myself afterwards, it really is like what my body needs. So, and I had this one little funny thing I had to tell you because when you're home, I know you have a nail salon you go to. I have a nail salon I go to. Well, I walked out of this was in Roslyn. I don't normally hang out in Roslyn. I walk out of the massage place and I go by this little nail salon that was gorgeous inside, like super nice and luxury nail experience. But they had all these clothes in the window and the clothes looked so cute. And I went in and I was like, I'm drawn in by the clothes in the window. And I was thinking, this place looks like such a fancy nail salon. They're going to cost a fortune. Saphira, I got a corduroy dress for like $50. I got this wool sweater for $60. And I got the cutest little shorts romper. It was so cute. Anyway, so secret little place for us to go shopping. But
I love it.
I was like, I can't do that in a nail salon. So anyway, those two things, little retail pick
Yeah,
me
you
up.
had a little bit. This morning's been
Yeah.
expect to be surprised. You found a massage therapist that beat the shit out of you, and it was wonderful. And had a little retail therapy to boot.
Yeah, so it was a better day than I expected. So, but yes, this week I've been very worried about you and thinking about you, but I've also known that you have the resilience deep within you to get through really hard things, but that doesn't take away from the pain and the difficulty of going through hard things. I mean, there are people that I know will really maybe not come out okay on the other end. And I do know with you, you will, but it doesn't take away from the horrendous feeling of that where you're in the pain and you're in all of that. And I know you've had a couple things that you've really kind of thought about this week and also learned about yourself. And I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah, and I think, particularly, you and I are what I would consider very high functioning. A lot of the women we run around with are high functioning and by all measures, very successful, educated, healthy, stable, um,
Mhm.
professionally in control. And when something happens in your life, even if it's, not related to your children or not related to your friends or not related to your marriage, but when it's related to your profession, and that's what happened to me in the last few weeks, which we haven't really delved into it a lot, but I'm going to be exploring it because one, I'm really, really curious about it, but two, I know other people are experiencing it, and I want to put, my way of managing is to put a pedagogy around it, which is to
Mhm.
think about, okay, so to take what happened and to really dissect it and see all the elements. And so for listeners' purposes, I had built an organization, and because of the way the organization was structured, it was essentially joined with another organization. And while I don't think it was a bad idea that it was joined, the impact on me was substantial. I have kind of relinquished my autonomy. I am working with a lot of new individuals that were not on my team before. And the whole process has been incredibly emotional for me. And while I know in my brain that change is good and change creates opportunity, for whatever reason, this whole experience triggered something in me that was completely unfamiliar because it was just a deluge of emotions. And what was so disruptive to me was the fact that I am an incredibly measured and even killed person. And for whatever reason, this situation unleashed an emotional deluge that was uncontrollable. And I still, there's a big mystery to me about why I experienced it. Um, but I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. And most importantly, I'm gonna be forthcoming and courageous uh, in my dissection of it to one, let it be something that for others who are experiencing it to be an experience share so that perhaps there's some peer support in it. But also, I would like to figure out a way to avoid it happening again.
Okay, so I have a couple thoughts on that. I not wanting to go through that emotional pain. Pain and emotional pain is very unsettling and really takes you off of your foundation and your rock and your center. But I have found that the times where I've been the most raw, the most emotional, the most vulnerable have been my most pivotal changing points in my life. That oftentimes I can look back and say, if I had never gone to that low, I never would have come back to this high. So I know you don't want to ever again, but sometimes, and I don't want them often, right? They've been very separated in time for me, 5 or 10 years apart. But when I've been rocked down to the bottom is when I have nothing to lose, when I have my soul is open and bare for me to look at, and all that covering up that I did for so long and the ignoring becomes really hard to do. And where I also can put my ego in check, because ego is what drives so much of what I do, right? I am a firstborn, born to two firstborns. I want to accomplish, I want to be successful, I want to be seen in a good light, I want to do all the things. And when you feel like you're in a place of extreme vulnerability, it's a time where the ego gets pulled out and where you can say, go at the outside view of me right now, because all I can do is look into myself and I can feel the feelings. I'm a big number and masker of feelings a lot. People will say I sound emotional, but I really, when it gets hard, I'm putting a lot of covers on things that are really hard. So I just encourage you to explore how you felt the way you felt and why you felt the way you felt, but also not to put a cap on it in the time that it might be appropriate again in your life someday.
Well, I can tell you, not only did I not expect to feel this emotional, I had an intentionality where I said to myself, you will not be emotional. And I almost like it was like I had this dual sense of humans, like dueling, I had dueling factions in my inner sanctum saying, stop feeling emotional on one side, buck up, stiff upper lip. This is nothing to get upset about. And then on the other side, I was like, and I don't mean to sound like trite, but a big blubbering mess. Like I literally could not think clearly. I literally could not think logically. I could not stop from crying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the juxtaposition between those two things, and Christine, I mean, I mean, it kind of started over the holidays and it's been ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. I think it may have culminated because it's the close of the chapter, like essentially all of the elements associated with it are gone. But or excuse me, have been concluded. But it had a, I'm saying this for the outside world, including the potential for people who are in that experience with me. It had a profound impact on me, and I am a different person because of it. And I don't know how I will proceed, but I am not the same person that I was going into this scenario
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
That I know. That I know.
I wonder if you probably don't have enough time yet to reflect on this, but what in the change of who you are and what you've been through has a positive at this point?
Yeah, I think you're right that I don't have it. I don't have it. Because I definitely instill, in the stages of grieving, the acceptance that portion of it is still in progress.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to be honest. I don't know that I can see the positive yet. I think if I were going to say there was a positive, it would be probably that over the years, and here's probably where I can get really, really specific for listeners. I've put an inordinate amount of importance on my professional success relative to my most immediate family or my ability to kind of look at my world around me. I struggle with boundaries and allow my performance in my professional environment to interfere with having a more balanced life.
You know what's interesting is I had a conversation with a client who's also a very good friend of mine yesterday, who is nearing retirement. She's been in CEO roles for many jobs and many years. And she said to me, she had a big aha moment that her husband just retired, that he said, oh, I worked just so that I could live and have money to eat. You work as your entire identity to who you are, your success, your whatever. And she said to me, I really am looking and seeing that this is really an ego play. I have derived all my self-worth and everything from my success, my professional success. And she's like, and it's given me a aha moment of like, what do I want to do next? And my ego does not have to be involved. I financially don't need to. She was really struggling with even considering retiring because what was her value to the world after?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I was just saying, I don't discount the role of ego. I think sometimes we think about the word ego and we somehow think it's a narcissism or it's a self-importance. And let's just say for what it's worth, like, okay, yes, maybe it's the ego that drove it, but I think I think it's even more for me. And I didn't mean to talk over you, but what you shared with your colleague, it is what value do you give to the world? And if I'm defining myself and your friend who's a CEO is defining herself as what the world shows her in appreciation for what she gives to the world, that's kind of a tautology that is a very cyclical and sickening, frankly, loop. And it's really, I'm thinking about it kind of from an intellectual perspective, because you think about that and the constructs about women who are on a professional trajectory to be really, really successful. And I'm trying to really think through how you can be like your CEO friend's husband, and who, as we look at the world, like, yeah, I mean, we're all going to die. Why would you even like put that much important in your work? And your friend who's a CEO, and then a professional woman who wants to really be successful, like those things don't add up. Like I think it's really unrealistic to think you can be so successful as a woman and as a professional and as a leader, and keep your professional life separate than your family life and not be upset when bad things happen professionally, and to always have a stiff upper lip, but be authentic. I mean, all those things are diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
There's a huge paradox there.
I do think when you think about ego outside of the way that we language have determined what ego is, and you think of it back to the Freudian definition of ego, the ego is not a negative, right? It is a portion, right? So you have the id, the ego, and the superego, and how they all function together. The ego makes a lot of the decisions for you. It determines reality. It gives you a sense of self. There's so many positive things that come out of the ego and what the ego's role is in you. It can't always, it does so many positives, but sometimes you have to look at it as the determinant for everything that you do in your life. Can there be other ways that you can maybe pull in these other components of your personality that might supersede the ego, which I just said, the ego really is part of the decision making, right? So that's really a difficult thing. But it is one of those things that sometimes there's a value in just reassessing what the goal and determinant is, and also how does it define your self-worth. So anyway, not to get into my bachelor's of psychology that I got 30 years ago, and I probably wouldn't pass my Freud exam now, so it doesn't even really matter. But really, I think it's one of those things where and I think with you, we really are successful and we want to be seen as successful. And that is really hard to reassess and look at other ways that we could feel success without that outside view of us and our accomplishments. Anyway, I think one of the things about it is that potentially this is the first step to you finding things that you might find all the more joyful, rewarding. It might be. But I have another friend who just went through a really rough time with his agency this week. And he's basically at the point where he's in a crossroads. Does he agency or not? And he said, but there have been these moments in my life that have tested me where I thought I could never really make a go of it again. And I do know now, because I've been through them, that I can. So yes, I'm in my lowest moment right now, but I know there will come a day where I'm going to look back and say, I'm so glad that happened, because it did something positive for me.
Right.
I'm not religious. So put these in the context of like, it was ordained to be because God had a greater plan for you and blah, blah, blah. But really, another way of saying doors open, opportunities happen because other doors close. And, I think that it is so to have someone say it to you. And when you're in the depths and the darkness of it, you're like, screw you. Fuck you. I don't want to go through this right now. Fuck you telling me it'll be better later. How do you even know? It's been the highlight. And now, so I get it. I only can go on history. And I know some of your history of really low moments have brought us some opportunities.
I think that's right.
I think it is. But yeah, fuck you. I don't want to go through it. I don't want to go through these really low moments and these really brain testing, life testing, relationship testing moments.
Yeah.
I will tell you, one of the things that I was thinking about is you work with a lot of men and you work in a very male dominated industry, and you are at the levels with very strong, powerful men. And there's many strong, powerful women too there, but the stiff upper lip concept and the don't pull emotion into business, and business is business, and keep it together and don't feel the feelings. I feel like that is so derived from a male dominated culture. And we have to stop holding that as the standard by which we all need to function. Because one, there are men out there that are emotional. And two, across the board, I would say women are more in touch with their emotions and feel these things. And if we can't bring that to business, then we are denying a major part of who we are. And yes, there are times where we have to look at A and B on paper and make a decision for what is best. But I will tell you, these billionaires that are making every decision for business right now with no emotion, that don't care about the end user, that don't care about the people, I do think in the long run, it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them. And so I'm not going to do the stiff upper lip. If something in business really is upsetting to me, I'm going to cry. If that's what my body wants to do in that moment. If I need to have that emotional moment, I might excuse myself and not make everybody go through it with me, but I'm going to have it and I'm not going to apologize for it. And I'm not going to live by the standard that people set in business before they allowed women to the table. So fucking feel your feelings.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that with such a authoritative and personal experience. I can tell you the feedback that I've gotten from several different peers is when I'm obviously in a public facing role, there is no emotion. Even in the one-on-ones, there's no emotion. When it's the public facing and there's like a broader group, I can kind of put on a more measured presentation. When it's one-on-one, it's just harder for me to hold it together. And then behind closed doors, that's when the emotional side of it really, like, literally took over. Like, not even
the dam burst.
It was literally like, I use the word poltergeist. I never even saw poltergeist, but it was like something took over your body type thing.
Yeah.
But that's what the experience was.
Because you held it back and didn't feel it for all those moments that you needed to. And so it built up to a point where your body literally could not take it anymore. I guarantee if you were wearing an Oura ring, that stress had sat at a high point for so damn long that your cortisol levels were whacked out. Everything in your body, chemical reactions, everything was whacked out because you had held yourself in a place of reserve and a place of keeping the emotion at bay where it's unsustainable. I mean, it's not going to work. And, I'm sorry, but you know what? I'm just at the point where I'm going to say to people, if you find that my voice quavering right now, or that I care about my organization, or that I care about my people as a moment of weakness, you've got it wrong. I'm coming to you with my whole heart and intent to do right by this organization and by the people involved. And that's where this comes from, because I have a heart and I have emotion and it is all together. This is not just a transaction with a bunch of lawyers signing off.
Well, and I wish I had that script, because that's what I was feeling and thinking, but unable to articulate. And I will tell you, the lawyers really did, they really did construct the way forward, and the individuals who knew about kind of past history. Let's just say I think the biggest surprise to me in all of this was prior success did not inform future intent by the people who could have made different decisions. My prior success for them and my prior efforts for them did not inform their, some of the decisions that were made on the go forward. So I have to decide what that means for me. I think I shared with you that I'm reading the Mel Robbins Let Them and Let Me. So there's a little bit of let them and that decision making and those intentions reveal who the leaders are of the organizations that were brought together and the decision makers. And now I have to say, well, let me. What is my reaction going to be? I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I certainly am looking at everybody through a lot clearer lens.
You know what, Saphira? I love that you generally move through the world in a sense of I do good, therefore it will come back to me. I care about people. I am kind to people. I am generous to people. I mean, it just shows what a purely good human you are. Unfortunately, a lot of other people don't work that way in the world. Yeah. And I do think that often reveals itself, and also who you want to be in bed with in anything you do. And I know you're in a situation where you can't choose your bedfellows right now. But I think one of the nicest things about it is that's what makes you such a wonderful person. I know you feel burned, and I know you feel really kicked in the teeth on this, but I hope it doesn't bitter you and harden you to where you don't continue to put out all the love and kindness that you put in the world, because it is one of the reasons I think so many people are attracted to you and want to be in your orbit, is because you just put out goodwill, you put out kindness, you put out generosity, you give compliments, you recognize people, you invite people to your home, you do all of these very generous things that, yeah, assholes are going to step on it. Yeah.
And the other piece that where I am I'm more in a place of contemplative consideration now, which is where I think you asked me what's the silver lining. The thing I think where I have the most concern about myself, and I actually mentioned this to one of the leaders in the groups. I said, part of the reason I'm so successful professionally is I leave it all on the stage. Like I run the race as if I have nothing to lose. I go for it. I lean in, and I did all that. And as a result, bad things happened. Or I shouldn't say bad things happened.
Things didn't work out.
Things did not work. Things were not designed in a way that reflected the input and the contributions that I made. Let's just say it like that. So now I've kind of got two options. One, I do have a reluctance in whether or not I even have the autonomy to proceed with as much unfettered enthusiasm, which, by the way, is part of the reason a lot of the successes were had in my organization. But secondly, and this, if folks are listening to me in my organization, I don't think they are, but do I have a desire to give that 110%, knowing that I did for so many years, and this was the result? So it's a little, I'm in a very contemplative state right now.
It's a lot. It is definitely a lot to think about. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do a quick pause and we're going to edit this out, but I'm going to pause for one quick second. So, do you think it's going to fundamentally change how you operate going forward?
I think, again, and this is kind of to what is it called when you've got a lens and a camera and you pull out so you can see you see more view, so to speak, more macro.
A 0.5 instead of the
exactly.
one.
Exactly. So you can see more of the landscape instead of being so myopic in your look. I think what I intend to do, and this is the work I have before me, is to make a more intentional decision about how much importance I place on my energy towards my professional endeavors relative to my energy towards my personal endeavors, and to create more of a distinction there. I mean, if you talk to anyone who knows me, I for the past 5 years have been kind of like, everything has been about my professional commitments and the family and the friends and sleep and health. I mean, I am fairly good at self-care, but that's just because it was like a little bit of a desperation station, and I actually did better professionally with it, but I didn't create more of a demarcation between my personal and professional life. And this experience highlighted to me like the importance of that. And the interesting thing is, I'm saying it's important, but I actually have to learn to do it because I don't do it naturally.
Right. So what are the other things that you're going to bring the focus?
So I'm so glad that you asked this, because one of the things I would like to do, and I started it today. So I woke up this morning and said, today is the first day of the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, and I'd like you to actually hold me accountable on this, is I'd like to have a meditation practice every day, at least once a day. I mean, obviously my exercise practice is pretty good. And then when I get back, I'm currently traveling, but when I get back to the States, I actually would like to have some very predictable and consistent time when my phone is away from me for like not an hour, but like 24 hours or 36 hours. And
that's pretty amazing.
So that's something, I had a conversation with a gentleman who observes Shabbat, but his theory is that it actually creates a more successful business trajectory when you really create that demarcation between professional and personal. And I think it will do really good for my husband and really good for me. And the other thing I think I would like to try to do, this is going to have to be more, is I'm actually going to have a more intentional stop time every day. And so this is all, like, people listening to me were like, what are you talking about? Like, is that even possible? Or I couldn't do that, or you don't do that? Because when people have a job where they work in an organization and they knock off at 5 or they knock off at 6, they don't, they may be online, but they're not doing their, if they're not paid for it, they're not doing it.
Right.
For my existence, really since 2006, my every waking moment has been about my to-do list for work, whether it was the dance studio or now this work in cannabis. I've never created boundaries. I haven't done it, Christine. I don't even know how to do it.
Because it's your business.
Well, I mean, well, I think it may be part of my personality. I mean, I think there are a lot of reasons, but I when you were starting your business, I'm not trying to like take the spotlight off of me, but it can be really, really difficult knowing that if I just do one more thing, it'll work towards success. If I could just do one more thing, I'll be able to take care of this client. If I could just do one more thing, it'll be one less thing I have to do tomorrow. If I could just do one more thing, I can demonstrate how much value I'm giving to this portfolio. If I can just do one more thing, the world will think I'm a more capable and successful human being. And you know what? That's fucking bullshit.
It is. You know what my turning point was? I think I told you this, where I learned how to create process so that I could do the business development and get the fuck out. Do the business development, get out. Obviously, you have talented staff members, but getting to the point where you can basically say to them, I brought you another one. Here you go, work it. I brought you another one. Here you go, work it. I've got some big ideas. Let me brainstorm with you guys. Okay, now go do it. And I don't know if that's possible in your space. So it may have to be an adjustment of like some of the work that you're doing or some of the levels of what you're charging or whatever it might be. And I get it. A lot of people are brought into because of me, but I have basically given my knowledge to my team and then say to them, you do it. Because I was just working at night, working in the morning, working in my bed, working when I went out, working when I was on vacation, working. And I finally was like, that's not why I did this. I did this so I could see my children. I did this so I could have a life. And it took me quite a while to figure that out. Now, my work is not as complicated as yours. And yours is very relationship based, and you are the one that holds a lot of those relationships. So I don't know if that's feasible, but maybe that is an adjustment to what you do to some degree, if it's possible. And speaking out of turn, because I don't really know how that can
No,
work.
I think the boundaries piece is key, and finding. I think the take. I've got a lot of takeaways, and I've got a lot of self evaluation happening, but I think the main thing, and we've talked about this in earlier podcasts, but what I was doing before is no longer going to work for me.
Yeah.
So it is stop, pivot, and do something else. And I'm going to practice what I preach. If you are not happy with what you're doing, stop, pivot, and do something else. And it may be something else in the same organization. It may be the way you interact in your organization differently. It may be a different organization. And I'm not, putting anything out there that is groundbreaking. But I can tell you the amount of effort and energy I put into a significant amount of my portfolio for it to have triggered what has happened. That is a scenario that I will do my very best not to have repeat itself.
Well, I'm here for you.
I appreciate it.
I'll help you how I can.
I appreciate it, and I'd like to dig into this more for our listeners, because the kind of, if you open up again the aperture of what most people experience, all humans experience stress. I would argue that most women experience more stress. And I would argue that most women professionals who are married and have children, that is even heightened just because of the number of concerns they have and how they all intersect. And what I want to make a commitment to do is share my learning on how I'm being honest with myself about my stress and anxiety, and how my work interacts with my life in a way that I can divulge an improved perspective and a way forward, so that if other people are experiencing it, they can, one, know they're not alone, but two, consider, not making the mistakes I've made, but also have the courage to reevaluate the trajectory that they're on, so that they don't have to be in this tautology of, work, or a tautology of thinking that their importance in the world is based on the amount of hours they put in their work environment or their to-do list, or effort extended. It's not correlative, but that is a lesson that I'm going to have to learn and teach myself.
Yeah, I think those are good lessons. And society has not set us up to think that way.
Yeah. Well,
right.
It's a heavy podcast today. I hope folks feel patient as I've tried to articulate this with as much detail as possible, but not undermining the current situation that I'm in. And we'll see more on those topics in future episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love you, and hang in there. And if anybody out there is feeling these high emotions, these low points, just know that this is very common with women in general, and we probably don't talk about it and don't reach out to other people as much as we should. So reaching out to someone that loves you and cares about you is an important step in helping take care of yourself. And it is not a sign of weakness. It is actually a sign of strength. All right. Thanks so much, Saphira.
Thank you.